What happens when a major country music superstar sits down for what's supposed to be a friendly, routine interview and instead finds herself blindsided by questions that push way past every professional boundary? What begins as a basic promotional chat suddenly unravels into one of the most awkward, uncomfortable 12 minutes ever caught on tape. And it ends with one of the most unforgettable walk-offs in entertainment history. Before we get into this wild story, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment telling me how you feel about interviews where celebrities get pushed way too far. Now let's get into exactly what went down behind the scenes. The Nashville studio was buzzing that afternoon with its usual pre-show energy. Carrie Underwood had shown up 15 minutes early like she often did, dressed in a sharp white blazer paired with dark-fitted jeans. Her blonde hair was styled to perfection, every strand in place. She sat down in the plush burgundy chair across from Bryan White, a longtime radio host who had built a career out of decades in country music journalism. The studio lights glowed softly, the cameras were already rolling, and for a moment everything looked calm, smooth, and perfectly ordinary. "Carrie, welcome back to the show," Bryan said with his trademark friendly smile, leaning slightly forward in his chair. "It's been, 3 years since the last time we sat down together?" "Something like that," Carrie replied as she crossed her legs and tugged at the sleeve of her blazer. "Time goes fast when you're constantly traveling. Thanks for having me back, Bryan. Always happy to be here." The conversation started off exactly the way these interviews always do. The first few minutes were pleasant and easy, covering her new album, the tour she was about to launch, and her family life. Bryan's early questions were safe, the kind Carrie had answered countless times before. She spoke about her creative process, her songwriting, the balance between motherhood and career, and the inspiration behind her music. Her answers were thoughtful and polished, delivered with the poise of someone who had been doing interviews for years and knew how to handle them with grace. "Your fans really seem to connect with the honesty in your new songs," Bryan said as he flipped through his notes. "Especially the one about forgiveness. That sounds like it came from a very personal place." Carrie nodded. "Music has always been my way of working through life. When you've been in the spotlight as long as I have, you live through a lot. You learn things about yourself, about the people around you. For me, putting those emotions into a song is one of the most healing ways to deal with them." Bryan gave a small nod, but then his tone shifted ever so slightly. "Speaking of learning things about people, there have been some pretty interesting rumors floating around Nashville about your relationship with your management team." Carrie's posture stiffened almost instantly, though she kept her smile fixed. "I'm sorry, what sort of rumors?" "Well," Bryan said carefully, "there's talk about disagreements, about some tension over creative direction. Some say you've gotten, let's just say, a little harder to work with as your career has grown." The room went heavy with silence, except for the low hum of the equipment. Carrie's publicist, standing just outside of the frame, shifted uneasily. This was not what the interview had been set up for. "Bryan, I don't know where you're hearing this," Carrie said, her voice still professional but with a sharper edge creeping in. "My team and I work really well together. We've been together for years, and I think the results speak for themselves. But surely there's something to the stories about you letting go of 3 assistants in the past year," Bryan pressed. Carrie uncrossed her legs and leaned forward. "I think we should stick to talking about my music and the projects I came here to promote. That's what your producer and my publicist agreed on." Bryan chuckled softly, but there was a calculated edge to it. "Come on, Carrie. Your fans want to know the real you, not just the polished version. They want to know what it's actually like working with someone at your level." "The real me," Carrie replied, her jaw tight, "is someone who treats people with professionalism and respect. And I expect the same in return, which is why I'm not sure why you're heading down this path." "I'm just asking the questions people want answered," Bryan said, holding his palms open in a mock innocent gesture. "For example, there are specific stories about your behavior in recording sessions. Producers say there have been, tantrums when things didn't go your way." The camera captured the exact moment Carrie's calm exterior started to crack. Her eyes flashed, her hands gripped the arms of her chair. "Tantrums? Are you serious right now?" "These are seasoned professionals, Carrie," Bryan pressed. "People with decades of experience. They're not all inventing this. Industry professionals who won't even attach their names to these claims, Carrie shot back. How convenient for them. And how convenient for you to call that journalism. Bryan leaned back, clearly pleased he was getting a reaction. So you're denying you've had heated clashes with the people you work with? What I'm denying, Carrie said, her voice rising slightly, is your choice to call passionate creative discussions tantrums. Do you honestly think music gets made with everyone smiling and agreeing all the time? Do you think great songs come from people who don't care enough to argue for their vision? But there's a line between passion and being hard to work with, isn't there? Bryan countered. Carrie stared at him, and viewers could almost see the wheels turning in her mind. Bryan, let me ask you something. In your career, have you ever disagreed with your boss? Have you ever pushed back when someone wanted to take your show in a direction you didn't believe in? Of course, Bryan said, but that's not the same. Why not? Because I'm a woman? When a man stands up for his creative vision, he's passionate and committed. But when a woman does it, she's difficult and throws tantrums. That's the double standard, isn't it? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Bryan's smile flickered, returning only after a pause, and even then it looked forced. I don't think gender has anything to do with this, he said. Doesn't it? Carrie shot back. Would you be sitting here asking a male artist about anonymous rumors calling him difficult? Or would you ask about his music, his craft, his inspiration? I ask tough questions to everyone in this chair, Bryan insisted, but his defensive tone betrayed him. No, Bryan, Carrie said firmly. You're asking loaded questions meant to stir drama where there is none. By now, the tension was thick in the studio. Carrie's publicist had edged closer, ready to cut things off. The camera operators kept filming, but even they looked uncomfortable with what was happening. Look, Carrie, Bryan said, trying to regain his footing. You're maybe overreacting a bit. These are just questions. If there's no truth, say so and we'll move on. Overreacting? Carrie repeated slowly. That's another word that always gets thrown at women when we don't just nod along and accept whatever is said about us. I didn't mean it that way, Bryan stammered. Then how did you mean it? Carrie snapped. Because from where I'm sitting, it feels like you came in with a story already planned out. And when I don't cooperate, suddenly I'm the problem. Bryan shuffled his notes nervously. I'm just trying to have an honest conversation. About what? Carrie shot back. About anonymous gossip? Because if that's your idea of honesty, we're clearly not speaking the same language. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the low mechanical hum of the cameras and faint traffic sounds outside the Nashville studio. Maybe we should take a quick break, Bryan suggested. Maybe we should, Carrie said coolly, though she stayed firmly in her chair, staring him down. But Bryan didn't break. Instead, he doubled down. Actually, no. Let's keep going. I think people deserve to hear your side of these concerns. Concerns? Carrie arched a brow. That's what we're calling rumors now? Well, when multiple people tell similar stories, it stops being just gossip, Bryan said smugly. Are you really criticizing me for wanting perfection in my music? Carrie asked in disbelief after he cited stories about her demanding dozens of takes in recording sessions. It's not about perfectionism, Carrie. It's about how you treat others when you don't get your way, Bryan replied. And with that, the interview spiraled further.